Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the New Starters Perspective series. This is where I get a chance to speak to those who have recently joined Veramed to find out what the first 6 months have been like. Today, I'm joined by Cathy. Cathy, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, more than welcome. Why don't we start with a little brief introduction of who you are and what your role is here at Veramed?
Sure. My name is Cathy Loe, and I was hired on as a senior business development manager here at Veramed. So I work in the United States. I'm one of the first two people in the US doing BD for Veramed. So it's kind of an exciting time to be part of this growth.
Yeah, I believe you work with Bree. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, she's my colleague. I'm on the West Coast. She's on the East Coast.
Yes, she's in Philadelphia, I believe.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm in the San Diego area.
Oh, lovely. Fun fact, she was actually the first podcast I ever recorded was with Brie. So yeah,
Oh,
it's very nice
very
to
cool.
all come full circle now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how has your first 6 months been like? Is this your first time sort of working for a UK company?
Yes, it is my first time working for a UK-based company, so it's been a little bit different. Not in a bad way by any means, but just different onboarding process. A lot of times we have differences in language and different holidays we observe. So just little things like that I'm still getting used to. And every once in a while I'll have to stop and ask somebody, wait, what does that mean? Fortnight? I think that's 2 weeks, but I'm not sure. So little things like that have been, but it's been fun, to learn about differences as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I've spoken to a couple of our American colleagues now, and they've all said the same thing. Like British slang is quite different from American slang.
Yeah, yeah.
I spoke with Kendra, and she said washing up. So we would say washing up the dishes, as in just cleaning the dishes.
Right.
But for Americans, washing up is having a shower, or like, yeah, that's one I didn't really realize myself. Yeah. So you said this is the first time working for a UK company. So what was the sort of recruitment process like for you?
Um, so I had a friend who had actually interviewed with the company and he ended up going elsewhere, but actually turned me on to the opportunity. And once I started speaking with the recruiter, he told me a little bit about the company. And I thought, oh, this really does sound interesting. And it's something I want to learn a little bit more about. So I had some follow-up interviews with some folks inside the company. And the more I talked to people, the more I could see myself fitting in here, both from a professional business development perspective, doing something that I love doing from a business perspective. But also personally, I felt like just the culture of the company felt like something a little bit different than I had had before, but different in a good way and something that I wanted to be a part of.
Oh, excellent. And how was the onboarding process? You did mention that was slightly different because obviously time zones and you being all the way on the West Coast. How was onboarding for you?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest difference is, I had to do things pretty early, morning time, my time, that's okay because I do like to get a jump on things in the morning. So, having some calls at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And, there's times when you have to make sure you're camera ready nowadays.
Yeah.
So those things were kind of different. But, as far as learning about the company, it was great. I always had open doors in talking to everybody from colleagues to senior leadership. And everybody has been super, super helpful and, trying to accommodate me and my colleagues in the US, as much as possible. So it's been a really good experience.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. And have you had a chance to meet any of the other US based colleagues that we have?
I have actually. In January, we had a very small sales meeting in the Philadelphia area. So I met a couple of my colleagues there. And then most recently, we had a couple of conferences. I was able to spend some time with Matt at a conference in San Francisco. And then there were, I think 10 of my colleagues in Orlando for the Fuse conference. So it was really nice to be able to meet people in person and have some conversations with them.
Oh, excellent. I assume you're primarily home based. How
Yes.
has that been for you? Is this something new to you, or is this something you did previously as well?
No, I've always worked from home, so this is nothing new for me. Probably a few more video calls than, I'm used to in the past, but I think that's just a sign of our times.
Yeah, exactly. And I quite enjoy a video call sometimes because you just,
Yeah,
it's a bit more personable, isn't it? Rather than just
exactly.
someone's name or initials sometimes.
Right.
So, do you have any tips for any other sort of US based people that are looking to apply to either Veramed or just a UK based company in general?
Yeah, I would say if anybody's interested in applying to Veramed, talk to some people. I had the liberty of speaking to somebody within the company before I made a decision to join, and that was very, very helpful to me. I think don't worry about them being a UK-based company if you are based in the US, because from everything I've seen so far, everybody has been very accommodating and willing to work with me on things, even though there are some differences. And as long as you have reasonable expectations, don't hesitate to apply or to look into the company further.
Excellent. So you being in the West Coast, there's an 8-hour time difference, which is obviously quite significant. So how was it sort of juggling that to begin with? Was it more like try and get as much work at the end of business UK time so you could start early on it and the slight delay in communication, or have you managed to find a balance with everyone on your team?
Yeah, I've managed to find a balance. Basically, I need to just, my days are set up. So the first few hours of my day, if I need to have calls with the UK, those are when those are happening. At 7 a.m., 8 a.m. my time, sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning. So just, getting ready for those calls was a little bit different. And then I do have the rest of my day to kind of focus on reaching out to my customers, potential customers, things like that. So I will send a lot of emails and information, but then when I start the next morning, I have all my emails from everybody and I'm kind of ready to attack the new day. It was kind of nice. We have time change a couple times a year, and the UK and the US are off by about 2 weeks, I think. So there's like 4 weeks in the year when I'm only a 7-hour difference.
That does make a lot of difference.
Of that.
Yes, I would. How do you find sort of selling a sort of a UK-based CRO to the US market? Because obviously we're probably quite relatively unknown in the US market compared to how we are in the UK. How has that been for you? Has it been challenging?
Yeah, that's probably been the biggest challenge is, we just don't have name recognition here in the US. But, once you find somebody to talk to and you start talking to them about Veramed and what we're about and, the culture of our company, the fact that we have so many resources available because we are a specialty biometric CRO, that's really attractive to customers. We talk to them about the quality and kind of, why the quality happens here. And a big part of that, I think, is the work-life balance, which is, tied into keeping all of our employees happy, and they deliver really good results is the result of that. Because we're a B Corp, I think that also holds employees and management accountable to a different standard that not all companies have. So I think all of those things kind of feed into why Veramed is who we are and, why we're special. Especially when I'm talking to customers here in the US who maybe are working with like a big, huge CRO that's full service, and they maybe don't get the time and attention that they need. And that's something that we can actually give to them. So, once I can catch somebody's ear and start talking about Veramed and who we are, they're always very interested in learning a bit more.
Oh, excellent. That's really good to hear. So would you say there's any sort of like differences that you've noticed, like personally from like working for a US company compared now to working for a UK company?
Yeah, there's little differences here and there. Like, for instance, the holidays. We have and observe different types of holidays. Just recently in the UK, the Easter holiday happened. I mean, that happened here in the US as well. But it's an observed holiday in the UK with a couple of days off. And here in the US, it's not so. It's also fun to kind of learn about the different holidays. Some of the more, I guess I would say, random ones, that we have here or that people aren't as familiar with, and to kind of help and educate people in the UK what those are and vice versa. So cultural wise, we've learned a lot about each other's countries, I think, whereas, often we think, oh, we speak the same language, we're not that different. But once you start talking to people, you find some of those differences, and it's kind of cool to learn more about that.
Yeah, no, it is very interesting. And like this is why I enjoy doing the podcast and get to speak to colleagues across the pond and just find out differences and things like this. Cathy, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. I'm sure I'll get you on one of the longer episodes at some point and we can dive more into the sort of BD and more of your role itself. But thank you so much for taking time out your morning to speak with me. It's been really wonderful.
All right. Thanks so much.
So thank you all very much for listening. If you'd like to be notified for any future episodes, please subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes, or whichever podcast platform you're using. If you'd like to know more about Veramed, please visit our website at veramed.co.uk, or you can find us on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about Veramed, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to help. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at We Are Veramed. Thank you all very much for listening, and until next time, goodbye.